I was scouted to join a playthrough of Minecraft's hardest skyblock mod pack with 31 other players, and I was invited to lead 3 other players as a veteran. The only issue is that I am not really a veteran, so join me on my quest as I attempt to get as far as I can in star technology before the server begins. Our run begins about halfway through the first chapter of 7, with the last few items being gathered in order to craft LV circuits, the most important component to progression at this very moment. By the way, most of this is being streamed right here on YouTube, so if watching progress live is more your speed, leave a sub and turn on notifications. And now it's time to cut to live stream Moss. So, quick base store real quick. Main storage. We've got stone barrel, it automatically produces cobblestone. This is depending on what I want it to produce. We've got the blast furnaces, which make steel, but I'm out of iron right now. We've got the ore factory, which is currently incomplete because it is missing input and output hatches, which I currently can't make. We've got over here the latex farm, which can be produced because I was able to make 1 hatch. Over here, create setup with a press and a mixer. And then over here was an old create setup, and it has my encased fan for bulk smelting, washing, and haunting. So for now, the checklist for today goes as follows. We want LV circuits. For that, we're going to need the resin circuit boards, which requires resin, which we're going to need slime spores, which, to be able to mass produce and passive those, we're going to need a large wooden barrel, which requires treated planks, which requires a coke oven. So coke oven is going to be the first. You know what? Let's add the actual goals, the other goals. 5 LV circuits, 4 LV hulls. So without further ado, coke oven hatch. Okay, we can automate the coke oven actually pretty easily here. So coke oven bricks, coke oven block, and coke oven hatch. What's the multiply? Okay, it's literally just a cube. Is it full? No, it's hollow inside. Okay, and the hash can be made from the bricks. So I need 4 bricks for the main one and then 25 for the rest. And that is going to be basically 2 stacks of clay and then a bunch of sand, which I don't have a lot of sand stored up, and I'm pretty sure I don't have a lot of clay backed up either. Okay, no, I do. There we go, coke bricks, and that makes 48. I don't think that's enough to make two of them at a time, to have 2 of these. Actually, maybe it is, I'm not sure. Like, if I go over here and I try, because these are, like, I could wall share them, which I couldn't because I wouldn't have enough for the second coke oven here. I wouldn't have enough bricks. I could make more, but I'm lazy. Where do I feel like I'm just losing buckets everywhere. I could have sworn I had, like, 5 buckets on me or something. So, wooden barrel, 4 treated planks, 2 treated sticks, and then I need 2 wrought plates. And now we can put our large barrel here. So it needs an item input, item output, and fluid input, fluid output, I believe. Bam, 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 bam. ULV hull. And now I need input hatch, output hatch, input bus, output bus. Okay. And now we have the large barrel. So now we can move the old barrel over here. Let's make it witch water. Output it into the large barrel. Bam. It is now crafting Flataki spores without consuming the original one, I think. You know what we could do? We could go on a side quest for the large farm as well. Because the large farm would allow us to feed our advanced composter, which in turn would give us bone meal, which would boost the latex plantation by quite a bit, which only requires input bus, output bus, so it's only 2 frames. Iron hoe. Bam, 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 bam. Okay, yes. Cool. Now, large farm, 40 seconds, 16 sugarcane. That'll get us the paper we need for our resistors. Next up is charcoal dust, which means more tree cutting. And then the rest of it for the resistors, we need the sticky resin, which we now have a large amount of Slataki spores, which is going to help greatly for this. Now I can take 5 plates and turn them into fine wire, as well as our 5 circuit boards. Now we turn 15 glass with a saw into 30 panes, and then all that into 10 glass tubes. We can combine with our wires and bolts to make 10 vacuum tubes. And now we grab our 15 of these and 5 of these. And bam! 5 LV circuits! We've done it! We've made LV circuits. So first things first, energy convert. Let's start with the dynamo. This one seems pretty easy. We need 4 hulls total. So let's make the hulls first. There's 4 casings, 10 wires. There we go. LV machine hulls. And then also my soul infused ingots. I'm going to try and keep the wire count as small as possible so that I can afford the transformer, which is 16 wires. Make 4 of these, and that makes our 4 amp energy converter. This is technically our first LV machine. Energy converter's done. Next up is the wire mill. 4 motors. That's 4 electric motors, and that's everything I need for my wire mill. Okay, first actual machine is done. Now I need my dynamo for power. And make our coil, make our dynamo. Does that not give me a quest? Carbon brushes. This is what I'm planning on using for power for, like, maybe up until, like, HV. Because this generates a lot of power. It's a lot of it. Which, if I turn on my wire, bam. It's powered. The wire mill is powered, guys. Hold on. Okay. We are going to go grab some charcoal in our chests that we have. There we go. Charcoal. And that's our bender. That's our second machine. So now we can make steel plates at a normal price. How affordable. Now that we've made some headway into LV, I find that it's time to set our sights on the lofty and pretty far objective of reaching MV. It's going to be a long grind, and we'll have to set up tons more machines just to get the necessary resources. So why don't we get right to work? Alright, so after the stream Sunday, I did do a little bit of stuff off camera. I set up this thing. It's just an automatic, it's gravel, dust, and sand. All 3 of them. It also makes clay, which is going to be useful a lot later. And then I also, like, tripled up the generation of the water wheels. I made literally just a stack of water wheels and I laid them all out. And now we have plenty of stress capacity for the base. And now, what I want to do is I want to get rid of these sieves. And for that, we're going to have to make a mechanical sieve. But for that, I want to be able to make it as cheap as possible. So I think the thing I'm going to do first is make a lathe. And for that, we're going to need circuits, which I'm just going to go out and buy because I do not feel like spending time making circuits right now. Now, for this machine, we're going to need hulls. You know what? I'm going to just bite the bullet and make a stack of plates here. And we're going to have to fuel this real quick. But yeah, I'm just going to use the bender and make a bunch of steel plates, because I am going to need quite a few machine hulls anyways, and most recipes require plates, so if I just make a bunch of them, I should be good for a little bit. Now that we've put our lathe down, we can craft rods a lot cheaper, and also that makes us able to make nails and screws, I believe. Screws and bolts, sorry. And that's going to be really cheap. Realistically, our next project is going to be making the mechanical sieve, because that's going to be really, really useful in automating basically all ores for this stage of the game. So the only thing that we aren't automating right now is blackstone, crushed blackstone, but right now we don't really need lead for the time being, so I'm going to be skipping out on that. Alright, this is going to be a pretty expensive endeavor, but... Oh, you get the book whenever you... Oh, see, I was trying to find documentation about the mod. I didn't know that you would just get the book after, Alright, cool, man. Now if I go and I craft a fluid card, if I put a fluid cell here, and I put a nodes on all of these, can I connect them? Yes, I can. Now these are all connected. This north side fluid. Do I have to have a card on all of the things? I think I do, actually. So now, if I put an extract card into here, it's not extracting. Oh, wait, no, it's in the south. Put it in the north, it's also not extracting. Alright, I guess I gotta do some reading then. What if I put the node on here? Okay, it is not working. And we'll re-tackle laser IO at another time, because that was a failure, and I just want to get all of it done. So now, fluid cell here. Bam, 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 bam. I need my wrench. That is totally not going to get super annoying. So I actually don't have enough power to run even 2 machines at once. I don't even have 2 amps of LV power, so I'm hoping to be able to change that very, very soon. I do have good news, though. We are very, very close to being able to craft our mechanical sieves. And there we go. That's 4 mechanical sieves. I can put one here, one up there, and one here. And so now what I need to do is set up my input and output buses. So the idea for the setup here is that we're going to have an input bus. I don't know why I made a ULV one. So we're going to have an output bus at the top here. And then we're going to have our energy input in the middle, considering that all of these share this surface right here. And then we're going to have a LV input bus. So this ULV input is not going to be useful for us. Now, the one thing that we still need to do is the energy hatch, which requires a low voltage coil, which requires an assembler. So we're going to have to take a quick detour and make one of these things. Okay, so the assembler is going to require 10 motors, which is pretty expensive, but it should be manageable. And there you have it. A basic assembler. This thing was expensive, but it's going to be very worth it because the assembler lets us make a lot of stuff a lot cheaper. Now, if I throw this and this into the assembler and I switch it to circuit 1, that's a new sound. It's totally not going to get super annoying when I eventually have to start making a lot more of these machines. And now we have our low voltage coil. Alright, with this last chunk of casings, the last machine here should be considered formed. There we go. So now we have 4 working mechanical sieves. Well, working. Working is kind of a broad thing to say, considering none of them are actually functional at the moment. So I finally got the laser IO stuff working. It took me like half an hour, but I figured it out. I think I've got this whole stuff down lock, okay? Now we need to power it. So this thing is going to be taking 4 amps of LV, and we currently can support a little over 1 amp of LV with the Stirling Dynamo, which is not enough. And all of that to say that we need to start scaling up our power production. And that is going to require us to make generator coils and carbon brushes. So the coils are cheap, the brushes are not. My question is how many brushes can one coil support? Alright, Google is saying 8 coils. I'm going to go ahead and trust it, even though I am a little bit skeptic. Alright, now it's time to make our magnets. So, magnetite block is the lowest level, and then it goes up to redstone, and then layered, which is its own crafting recipe, and fluctuated, which is also its own recipe. And the large neodymium requires fluctuated and neodymium, which I think is a little further in the game. So we're gonna make... Oh, we need magnetite blocks still. Okay. Now, magnetite dust, we have that. Alright, I'm gonna show you guys my secret surprise tool. And that's that I've been running the primitive ore factory for a little bit in order to gather up as much magnetite dust as I could. So we're going to need a stack and a half of these. Alright, all of the resources that I need for my fluctuated magnets are done by now. I should have enough. I made half as much gold as I need. Okay, never mind. I also added an extra layer to the water wheel setup, giving us an extra, I believe it's 8,000 or 16,000 stress units. It should be enough to help us run this motor and maybe a second one if we eventually need to. Alright, the gold is done, which means we can now make the rest of our fluxed magnetites. And, oh my goodness, I can't even place them right now. I'm at maximum stress. Can you guys believe it? I got an achievement here. Get 100% readout from a stressometer. How does that even happen? I think now's the time we switch to windmills, because these can produce a lot of stress units, and they don't take up as much space as the water wheels. Many resources later, we should be able to make plenty of sails at the moment. Well, if there's one thing that I know how to do is make a well-optimized windmill setup. Look at this. This is 3 maxed windmills, and it's taking up not a lot of space, that's for sure. Alright, let's go see how much more power we can generate with this new addition of exactly 24,000 stress units to the setup. Now that is producing a whole lot of power. If I look at my stressometer, yep, I'm at max stress capacity. Oh well. So if I calculate here, 4.2k RF or FE converts to about 1,000 EU, which would be quite a few amps of whatever. Yes, there is. Oh my god. Okay, yes, it's working. So now this machine is using up power. It is not really making a dent at all inside of our actual power generation. And so now this is going to output a bunch of stuff into the bus here and quartz into the bus here, which consequently we are going to have to make some new drawers for. And now that's the mechanical sieve done and dealt with. I haven't set up Blackstone for it yet. I might end up doing that on stream. I might not. I have figured it out. I have figured out why the recipes are stalling. It's because I need a second LV energy hatch. That's what I need. Anyways, 2 blocks of wrought iron. This took forever to cook. But now we can throw all of this into the blast furnaces. And 6 minutes for each block. And we're making 64 blocks. So that's going to take quite some time. And it's going to keep us fed with steel for a really long time. So while the steel's currently cooking, what I want to do is I want to work on helping automate all the resources I need for circuits. And I figured I wanted to start with the resin because everything else is very easily available to me. And since I'm out of stress units from setting up all of the generators for the power, I need another windmill running. And this windmill will have as main purpose to help supply my base with enough stress to make a boiler, which is going to help supply my base with enough stress to make more magnets, but also make more machines and make more setups. So we're going to need a lot of copper for this, but good thing that these sieves have been running because I have 7,000 copper ingots here. Boilers are almost ready. Now I got to make a tree farm so I can power them. So the tree farm is basically done here. Right now I'm waiting on some lava to get the encased fan to turn it into charcoal, because I'm going to turn it into charcoal and then I'll just use laser IO to transfer it over to the boilers here, which is just going to take the mechanical arm and is going to take out of the thing here. There's 1 arm per boiler. And this should generate me more than enough stress units to both run any setup I want, as well as magnets for good power. So now the lava's placed, it should cook all of the spruce logs into charcoal right about now. And if we throw chain drives on the end here, we should be able to have a nice and solid power output. If I start this up, bam, level 9 boiler. Each of these 147k. These things are spinning really fast. Okay. We now have 600,000 SU of stress capacity. We can now slap on the rest of our coils and finish up this setup. Bam. Alright, if we look at that, that's 8 coils running on flux magnetite. 9.8k energy per tick, which fully saturates this, which makes about 2,000 EU, and 2,000 EU is not really that much in the grand scheme of things. It might be enough to get us into MV, but it's not going to be sustainable for MV, which is why I'm probably just going to scale this up. Because this setup realistically eats 240,000 stress units, which I can afford 2 more of these things. So that would bump me up to about 30,000 RF, which converts to about 8k, we'll say 8k EU, which is, I think, a pretty good amount. So the next thing I want to set my sights on is a circuit assembler, which will cheapen my LV circuits, but for that I'm going to need a lot of LV circuits, which means we're going to have to do another batch of crafting. But before that, I want to be able to utilize my basic assembler in order to make the components a lot cheaper. But for that, I'm going to need a centrifuge. Now, luckily, I can afford the centrifuge. It is pretty cheap. It's 4 circuits. I ran out of copper wire. Something else that I wanted to do before I forgot was to make a 16 amp energy converter. All right, everything is crafted. Now, if I just go ahead, fill the grid, throw everything in here, and I shift click, that's 16 circuits, baby. With our circuits, it's about time I reorganize my power infrastructure, so I will be setting up a 16 amp converter right here, and from there I'm going to be running 4 gauge soul wires. And now with my wrench, I'm going to be taking off all of the old machines, and now I'm going to be throwing them all onto the new system, like this. Okay, so here's where we'll say the genius, just for now. But here's where the genius comes in. I'm going to eventually build a battery bank, and then I'm going to have all of these cores connect to the big battery bank. So let's say we have that power generation. It's going to come over here, and it's going to connect into the battery bank, right? And then the battery bank is going to also connect outwards, right? So let's say we have the batteries here. We connect into the battery and then out of the battery. And it is going to be pretty expensive in connectors, but I think it's going to be the best for scalability later on, even though AE2 is going to exist, but I think there's probably going to be other power solutions by then. But this is like the plan. We're going to have power wirelessly transferred to the big battery, and then out of the battery into the power setups. But for now, for the purposes of right now, I am literally just going to connect the current setup straight to the power generation. And now we can make a couple steel plates in the new and improved and well-organized setup. Though I'm tired of having to come back to the chest, and I don't want to have to come back to the chest every single time I do something at the chest, so I'm going to make a wireless terminal, an advanced wireless terminal, which I can slot on my belt and press the B key to open, which does not work, so I'm going to go ahead and change my controls. So now it's bound, and now if I go over here and I press K, I have access to all of my storage and all of my materials. So let's set up another energy converter, and we're going to put it up with some new machines, like the centrifuge here, which we're going to pick up. Alright, so before building the setup, I am going to need all of the machines included in the setup. And the machines I'm missing is a chemical reactor, which should be easy enough to make. And there's our motor, which means chemical reactor, check. Now for the fluid solidifier, which is 2 pumps. Anyways, that's everything for our fluid solidifier. And now we can line up these machines over here. Let's throw on the centrifuge, which will output to the left into the chemical reactor, which will output into the left into the fluid solidifier with the metal mold plate, which will automatically output to the left into a drawer. There, I throw in raw rubber, I throw in sulfur. This is going to make rubber. This is going to output the rubber into here. Anyways, the chemical reactor will take 30 seconds to output the liquid rubber. And the liquid rubber is being output... It's being output into the centrifuge. Okay, well, we have quite the amount of liquid rubber that is overflowed from the setup. But we should be fine. This is going to automatically produce rubber sheets every now and then. Hopefully this is going to be a consistent enough production that we don't have to worry about using the latex farm ever again. Automated rubber aside, there are a few more machines I do want to make before moving on to the EBF. And there you have it, an extractor. And then we throw on our basic extractor. There we go, set its output to bottom. And now we can melt metals. And now I think it's time to finally tackle the gargantuan project, at least for now, that is the electric blast furnace. Now, the EBF requires copper nickel coils, which is exactly why we made that extractor, because it can allow us to melt our tin in order to put it into the assembler and make our copper nickel coils. We are going to need 42 coils because I plan on making it a quad EBF off rip. So we're going to need 42 blocks of this. So while we wait for all of the alloys to cook up, I'm going to start working on the machine parts themselves that we're going to need. All of the invar is done. That means it's time for our copper and our nickel. And that also means it's time to start properly processing all of this invar into the plates we need. I just realized that I can actually make invar plates at the metal presses here, so that's going to speed that up. There we go, and now we can craft heat-proof invar machine casings with a wrench and a hammer, which is low on durability. But I was able to make all 30, which is a win. Now, with all 30 of these, we make 4 electric blast furnaces, which, hold on, we just got a real quick detour. Make some extra furnaces. Alright, here come the first set of blocks that we can place in. Next up, I'm going to need 8 of these energy hatches, which we have made a ton of steel plates for, and we're going to make a ton more. There's all 4 maintenance hatches. We're going to make 2 output buses and an input hatch. Alright, we're going to throw in our next batch of items, the LV input bus and 2 output buses. Alright, here we go. We've started crafting our first copper nickel coil blocks, and we are still producing more wires. It is going to take quite a while to get all of these things crafted. Right, while we're waiting for that, we can throw on our energy hatches and figure out power for this. Because I've just realized I'm going to need a 16 amp converter. Alright, all of the hatches are now set. Everything's been properly wired in. So now let's throw in our output barrels and then our input. All the coils are done. Alright, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Now we throw on our ULV input hatch. 4 mufflers right here. Throw on our maintenance hatches. And our last casing. And look at that! 4 EBFs! Alright, I'm just gonna carry all of my tools over here so that I can bam, fix problems, bam, fix problems, bam, fix problems, bam, fix problems. There we go. So now all of the machines, maintenance fine, all of these blast furnaces can now function. Now this quad EBF is great. It's also kinda useless right now, right? It's gonna be time to set our sights on finally making our circuit assembler, which is gonna make circuits cheaper, as well as allow us to craft a lot of stronger circuits. Okay, so I've just looked at all of the recipes and all of the things that are going to be required for me to even be able to consider making a circuit assembler right now. There's a lot more to do, and that's going to start with a lot more machines. While I wait for a bunch of machines to work, I actually just remembered that the EBF can still be used to make steel, at the cost of oxygen gas, which I currently have the means to make because of all the electrolyzers I've crafted. Alright, that's all of our prerequisites. We craft a low-pressure steam miner, we craft a high-pressure steam miner, and then we craft our void extractor core block. Alright, all of our hatches and machine components are done. I'm going to throw down the drill right here. Now, our void extractor is powered, but it needs drilling fluid, and that drilling fluid is going to require a few machines to make, most notably a distillery and a mixer. So first things first, the distillery, it's a pretty cheap recipe, all things considered. The distillery isn't expensive, the mixer isn't either, so I'm going to go ahead and make that real quick. Alright, pretty much everything is hooked up. All I have to do now is get some stone dust and some creosote and hook it all up to this. Alright, the distillery is working its magic and making lubricant, and it turns out the stone dust is going to need a macerator to produce. And luckily for me, I had made an extra motor and an extra hull, so this machine was very quick to craft. And I am going to go ahead and throw it on the end of my machine line right here, as well as go grab a barrel for the outputs. And from here, we can just chuck in some gravel to macerate, and we're going to have a bunch of stone dust in no time. I've set up the item outputs, and now all that's left is to figure out processing the fluid outputs. So the rare ore residue is going to go into the electrolyzer, and then the raw ore slurry can be centrifuged for now into a couple ores, as well as a couple other mixtures, which can also be produced into other things. It's kind of a complicated process. I just figured out, after going all the way down the line and trying to figure out how many electrolyzers and centrifuges I would need to process all of the outputs, I realized that the actual processing of the outputs is MV locked, and a little bit further down, HV locked, which means that I will just go ahead and chuck the stone dust into the mixer and watch this absolute beauty of a void extractor start its work. So what this void extractor is going to get us is a consistent source of coal, which we haven't had access to yet, a consistent source of gold and nickel, which means we no longer really have to rely on byproducts to get coal and gold and nickel, but it'll also give us access to silver, sodalite, and realgar, which are all going to be new materials for the time being. And there you have it. We now have all 6 of these new materials, and we can go ahead and process all of them how we see fit. So, projects for this stream. Let's grab the clipboard. I haven't used this since last stream. Projects. We need iron 3 chloride line. We need to start producing iron 3 chloride, which will let us make phenolic boards. I need gallium arsenide for the, what are they called? Diodes for MP circuits. And then I need to set up ore processing for sodalite and silver. So first things first, ore processing. The plan here, we have raw sodalite. I'm just going to process like a little bunch of sodalite just to show you guys. So we start by putting it in the macerator. The macerator is pretty slow when it comes to processing ores, and I want to figure out if there's like a better way to do this, but I'm really not sure if there is. So ore factory, go here, electric ore factory, it's 1 circuit, and all of this. So it's 48 solid casings, 4 gearboxes, 4 pipes, 12 firebox casings, and this is 16 seconds per ore. That's going to require a lot of circuits. I have no circuits. So step 1 is circuits. We figured it out. Step 1 is circuits. So now this is where all the glue I made comes into play, because I plan on making a stack of circuits, right now. Since they're basically the cheapest they'll be for a while. You know, I say that, and then I gain and then the circuit assembler starts laughing in my face. You know what? We'll make 32 circuits. We'll make 32 basic circuits. So that's going to be a stack of vacuum tubes, a stack of resistors, and a Joe Dirt DVD. Steel plate and vacuum tubes. Bam. 24 LV circuits. That should last us. That should last us an okay amount. So what was it that I wanted? I wanted the ore factory first and foremost. And then for iron 3 chloride, we want the electrolyzer. So we want to make one of those. And then we need chemical baths, chemical reactors. So I'm going to need 2 of these. Two basic chemical reactors, 1 electrolyzer, and then also the ore factory to get all of my sodalite processed. So let's pull up electric ore factory. Let's see, what do we need? So we need the core block. That's going to be really easy to make. So we're going to need 34 steel frames. So why don't we, while we wait for that to go out, we can just blissfully ignore it and work on the other machines. This is making fine wires in it. Yeah, it's making fine wire. Okay. Chemical processor, tin rotor, tin ring. We got our rotor. There's our basic chemical reactor. We're gonna need another one actually, right? Rock filtrator, you say? Because that would be geodes, and that would be sapphires and green sapphires, which would get me aluminum. All right, electric ore factory. There we go. Now, if we look at the multi-block, the base is made of the firebox casings. The bottom spots are made of anything. Oh, I also need to make a maintenance hatch and a muffler hatch. Okay, that's good. That's not bad. I'm thinking of putting my ore factory here. I think that's a good idea, right? And then 4 bronze casings. Yeah, I saw it transform. There we go. Structure formed, needs maintenance. Bam. Alright, maintenance is done. Now we gotta feed it some water. So yeah, recipe outputs distilled water. So now the machine has distilled water. It's a matter of throwing in ores now. Right now, I gotta chuck in some sodalite, and it produces a random amount of whatever. So this is gonna go on the main line because we have just enough power in the 16 amp converter for it. So this is the electrolyzer for the ores, and we're gonna manually put in the stuff we produce, except for this one. We're gonna have this one auto output fluids. So we've got a lot of sodalite. I'm gonna start electrolyzing it like right now. So sodalite electrolysis, aluminum, silicon, sodium, and chlorine gas. This is gonna be the chlorine plus where are my cells? Hydrochloric acid, which immediately goes into here. And once we have 3 of it, it will go into the other thing. It'll turn into iron 3 chloride, which is it like acidic? No, it isn't. It's not like, ooh, handle with care. So now we have aluminum dust. Can you believe it? All right, since we have aluminum dust, let's get that stuff smelting like now. So actually, this will get us. This is 3 buckets. This will get us 30 boards, actually. And so I also need phenolic boards, which is wood dust and glue. We should have more than enough wood pulp now. Thank you very much. So now we've got the realgar dust, and now I gotta centrifuge it for arsenic. Arsenic and gallium in a mixer on circuit 1, and that is gonna make up our gallium arsenide. Before I forget, I need to turn the silver into thin sheets. And oh my god, look at the sodalite. Okay, let's do some more of that. And we've got more aluminum. Alright, diode. Getting the annealed copper might be good. For that, I'll make an arc furnace. Bam bam, basic arc furnace. Boom. Now I need copper blocks. You know, like a bit of oxygen and copper. There we go. Now that'll get us our annealed copper. The assembler's done making all of its boards. That's 40 basic phenolic boards, which I would need 40 iron chloride and a ton of silver foil, which I don't have. So I think, yeah, silver's the next thing I should process right now. Hold on. If I go here, iron 3 chloride line, we got the boards, we got the arsenide. We did the ore processing. We've got aluminum. We are close. We are pretty close. Chuck in gallium arsenide and fine wire. This is going to make our diodes. 4 iron sulfides, and there we go. Foils. We start making our boards. So we've got phenolic boards. We've got diodes. We can make good electronic circuits now. We technically have all the resources necessary. So let's do just that. Let's do a little craftathon and make our basic circuit assembler. Let's start with the simple stuff. LV hull. This emitter requires quartzite. Ugh. Okay, I think we got to do a detour. Make a rock filtrator. Anyways, 4 motors. Solid steel machine casing. That definitely hurts. And now the multi-block. 7 fire block casing. I need critical coils and tempered glass. 12 solid steel. Okay, dude. I suppose I'll be spending a good bit working on a rock filtrator now, so that I can get my geodes. Alright, so rock filtrator, it's going to go over here. It's going to take another amp of this power, and it's not forming. Oh no, it is formed. Never mind. I just couldn't see it from the top. Okay, now we power it with our soul-infused wires. There we go. Now this thing is powered. Fluid pipe, fill it up with distilled water. Let me add rock filtrator to the list of things we did today, because that was huge. And now we have 2 quartzite geodes, which we can macerate into crushed quartzite and then make it into dust, I think. How do I make a quartzite gem in the autoclave? It's dust. Okay, it's dust. So I'll just macerate and then ore process it. How's that sound? Let's get back to the circuit assembler. Back to the main objective. LV conveyor module. We need 2 motors for that. Now we need our robot arm, which is 3 motors. Robot arm, LV piston arm, small gear. Now good electronic circuits. This is where we craft both of our MV circuits. Quest completed. Good electronic circuit. We have MV circuits, boys. And we're going to put them to very good use once our autoclave is done, actually. Bam. Quartzite. Bam. I need brass rods. Circuit assembler. LV emitter. Not letting me use my circuits. There we go. LV emitter. And basic circuit assembler, boys. We can now make circuits for very cheap. This machine, this changes everything. This is revolutionary. And bam. We now have circuits at what is essentially the cheapest they will ever be. Well then, that's MV. We have MV technology. And I think that just about wraps everything up so far with a neat little bow. We've managed to go from the primitive age to medium voltage, and now have tons of resources to boot. At this point, everything on my list has been crossed off, and now if you don't mind, I'll be cleaning all of this up for the next episode. There's really no telling when the 32-player run begins, so next time you see me, it might be with a big title like Team Leader, and I suggest you subscribe so you don't miss it. For now, this has been Miles Moss, and see you next time.